देव की जय। नित्य विश्व विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतस्मर श्रील भक्तिवेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य विश्व विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतस्मर श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य विश्व विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतस्मर श्रील भक्ति विज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य विश्व विष्णुपाद श्रील प्रभुपाद नित्य विश्व विष्णुपाद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य विश्व विष्णुपाद श्रील भक्ति विज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य विश्व विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतस्मर श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य विश्व महाभागवत श्रील गोक्षरस बाबूजी महाराज की जय। नित्य विश्व वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पतदास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गोपाल शारद वृंद की जय। नाम अक्षय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विराट गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंज श्याम कुंज की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। कार्तिक व्रत की जय। व्रत पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जय। कार्तिकी श्रीमती राधिका की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All right. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanitti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Namne Go Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Tarvo Binedu Stang Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Ridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Kshiptastakama Ditaranga Madhe Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right. 1 second. I'm just sharing my other screen. I'm just going to share my entire screen. There. All right. So, let's look at what we've been reading just a little recap of this chapter. This is a book called Kṣūʀᴛɪධ쏘 by, I forgot what the guy's name is. Okay, let's make the text a little bigger. Okay, so Canto 2, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. So verses 1 through 39, this is what we're reading now. Let's see, we might get to 39 today. We'll get to either 35 or 39. It's 20 pages to get to 39. Anyhow. So verses 1 through 25 was the various Leela, Manvantar, and Shaktivesh avatars of the Lord, along with their prime purpose of descent. Now today we'll be reading about the various activities of Lord Krishna, and then there's incarnations related to Kali Yuga, and then there's the Guna avatars. And then after, then we'll read about how it's impossible to understand the greatness of Vishnu without his mercy, how Bhagavan is superior to Paramatma and Brahman, and the dissemination of this knowledge. Then we'll be on various incarnations of the Lord. What? Never mind. Oh, this is breaking it down. I was like, wait, there's more incarnations? Okay, so the first incarnation was Varaha. And the activities it mentioned was he was the form of all sacrifices. He lifted the earth when it was drowned in the Garbhodak ocean. And then he pierced the first demon, Hiranyaksha, with his tusk. Then the second incarnation was Suyagya, son of Ruchi and Akuti. And he begot the demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of Dakshina. As Indra, he diminished the miseries of in the three worlds, and he was called Hari by Swayambhuva Manu. Then Kapila, son of Kardama and Devahuti. He spoke the science of self-realization to his mother and liberated her in that very lifetime. And 4, Dattatreya. He appeared before Atri and said, I have given myself to you. Therefore he is Datta. He purified the Yadus, the Hayas, etc. by his dust, and they obtained material and spiritual blessings. Then there's the 4 Kumaras, that's number 5. They appeared when Brahma underwent austerities for creation. And 2, they clearly established the spiritual truth which was lost at the end of the previous kalpa. Then there's Nara Narayan. That's incarnations 6 and 7. They're the sons of Murti and Dharma, and to exhibit his personal way of austerity and penance. 3, Cupid and his associates could not break his vows. And then 4, great stalwarts like Shiva can vanquish lust, but become overwhelmed by their own wrath. Such wrath can never enter the Lord's heart, so how can lust take shelter in his mind? Then the 8th incarnation described is Prishni-garbha, who awarded Dhruva-loka to Prince Dhruva. Okay. And then is Prithu. I was confused because I was like, Dhruva isn't an incarnation, that's what I was saying yesterday, right? But it's Prishni-garbha, who awarded Dhruva-loka to Prince Dhruva. Then is Prithu. He delivered the condemned King Vena from hell and milked the earth and drew all kinds of crops as produce. Then there is Rishabdev, the son of Sudevi and Nabhi. He performed materialistic yoga. He has renunciation that is practiced by other sages, gave up material affection, had controlled his senses, and was situated in the self. Then there's Hayagriva. He is the personified sacrifices. He's personified sacrifices, Vedas, and supersoul of all demigods. All sweet sounds of Vedic hymns came from his breathing. Then 12th incarnation is Matsya. He will come at the end of the Vaivasvat Manvantar to shelter all living entities. 2. Vedas came out of Brahma's mouth when he was fearful of the water of annihilation, and the Lord, enjoying those waters, protected the Vedas. 13. Kurma. He held up the Mandara mountain on his back in Samudra Manthan, when the churning of the Mandara mountain. Churning the ocean. 2. Movement of the mountain relieved the Lord of an itching sensation while he was partially sleeping. Then 14 is Nrsingadev. To remove the fear of the demigods, he killed Hiranyakashipu by placing him on his thighs, piercing him with his nails, rolling his eyebrows in anger, and showing his fearful teeth and mouth. And 15 is Hari. And then it's the story of Gajendra being attacked by a crocodile. Gajendra's prayer, the Lord appeared with his wheel, killed the crocodile, and lifted the elephant. Then 17 and 18 is Vamandev. He came as the youngest son of Aditi and surpassed all the qualities of the Adityas. On the pretense of measuring 3 steps, he took away all the land of Bali Maharaj. Bali did not think of anything, heaven or his spiritual master, besides his promise. He offered even his own body, his head, for measurement. Then 19 is Hansa Avatar. He taught Narad about Bhakti Yoga, which is especially understandable by pure devotees surrendered to Lord Vasudeva. Then 20 is the Manvantara Avatar. He comes as a descendant comes as a descendant in Manu dynasty in each Manvantar. He subdues miscreant rulers. His glory is spread all over the 3 lokas. Then 21 is Dhanvantari. He quickly cures all living entities, diseased simply by his fame, cause of long life for the demigods, and he inaugurated the medicinal science, Ayurveda, in the universe. Then 22 is Parshuram. He uprooted the Kshatriyas 21 times when they turned astray from the path of the absolute truth. And then finally, this is what we finished with, is Ramachandra. He is the son of Dasharath in the Ikshvaku dynasty. He went to the forest under his father's order, vanquished Ravan, and he was aggrieved for Sita Devi. Being aggrieved for Sita Devi, he glanced over the ocean with red-hot eyes. The ocean trembled in fear. And then he curbed the pride of Ravan along with his life air. Now, today, we will be reading about Kṛṣṇa. Verse 26 is about his appearance, how he descends with his original beautiful hair to diminish the burden of the earth, along with his plenary portion Balaram. And then verses 27 to 33 is Krishna's superhuman activities. All the activities of Lord Kṛṣṇa are impossible for anyone else to perform. We'll read about how he killed Putana, overturned the cart, uprooted the Arjuna trees, chastised Kaliya, saved the Vrajvasis from a forest fire simply by closing his eyes. The rope fell short when his mother tried to bind him, showed universes in his mouth, saved Nanda Maharaj from Varuna, released the Gopas from Vyomasura, awarded Vrajvasis promotion to the highest planet in the spiritual sky, which proves his godhood, stopped Indra Puja and held Govardhan hill to protect the Vrajvasis when he was only 7 years old. And he beheaded Shankachura, who kidnapped the damsels. And then maybe we'll read 34 and 35 if there's time. He killed so many demons, both in Vrindavan and outside, either personally through his devotees like Baladev or Arjuna, or awarded them in personal liberation or his personal abode. All right, so that's what we're reading today. That was a long introduction. Sorry, guys. How do I get this? Show reader. How come the reader's not showing? Ah, there it is. What number is that? 26. Okay. Let me make this a full screen now. One second. 26. Oh, and tomorrow, so first we're reading about Krishna, then after it will be Vyasadeva, Buddha, Kalki, and the Guna avatars. And then that's the end of the chapter. Okay, so we're close to the end. Krishna, there's only 3 more avatars. And I'm just checking my phone because I cannot see the comments for some reason. So strange. It says there's 14 people watching, but I highly doubt that. I think it's just showing from the previous video I was just doing. Daily Bhagavatam. And okay, let's start. There. Okay, now I have the video open, so if anybody has any comments, I can see. Okay, yeah, it's only Raseshwari Mataji watching, which is totally fine. Text 26. This is text 20. Okay, here we are. Okay, so there's Ramachandra. When Ravan was engaged in the battle, the trunk of the elephant which carried the king of heaven, Indra, broke into pieces, having collided. Okay. Bhome suretara varutavim. Sorry. Bhume suretara varuta vimarditaya klesha vyayaya kalaya sita Krishna kesha jata karishyati jananupalakshya marga karmani chatma mahimopani bandhanani. When the world is overburdened by the fighting strength of kings who have no faith in God, the Lord, just to diminish the distress of the world, descends with his plenary portion. The Lord comes in his original form with beautiful black hair, and just to expand his transcendental glories, he acts extraordinarily. No one can properly estimate how great he is. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse is especially describing the appearance of Lord Krishna and his immediate expansion, Lord Baladev. Both Lord Krishna and Lord Baladev are one Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is omnipotent, and he expands himself in innumerable forms and energies, and the whole unit is known as the one Supreme Brahman. Such extensions of the Lord are divided into 2 divisions, namely personal and differential. The personal expansions are called Vishnu Tattvas, and the differential expansions are called Jiva Tattvas. And in such expansional activity, Lord Baladev is the first personal expansion of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vishnu Puran, as well as in the Mahabharata, both Krishna and Baladev are mentioned as having beautiful black hair, even in their advanced age. The Lord is called Anupalakshya Marga, or in still more technical Vedic terms, Avan Manasa Gochara, one who is never to be seen or realized by the limited sense perception of the people in general. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:25, it is said by the Lord, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samabrita. In other words, he reserves the right for not being exposed to anyone and everyone. Only the bona fide devotees can know him by his specific symptoms, and out of many, many such symptoms, one symptom is mentioned here in this verse, that the Lord is Sita Krishna Kesha, one who is observed always with beautiful black hair. Both Lord Krishna and Lord Baladev have such hair on their heads, and thus even in advanced age they appeared like young boys 16 years old. And what is it in Damodarastakam? It says that Krishna's hair is actually avyakta nilai. It's extremely dark blue. Avyakta means extremely, and nila is blue. So it's very, very, but it's dark blue. And then raktash. Raktai means that it's also reddish. So it's super dark blue with like a reddish glow to it, I guess. Both Lord Krishna and Lord Baladev also have such hair on their heads, and thus even in advanced age, they appeared like young boys 16 years old. That is a particular symptom of the personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that although he is the oldest personality among all living entities, he always looks like a new youthful boy. That is the characteristic of a spiritual body. The material body is symptomized by birth, death, old age, and diseases. But the spiritual body is conspicuous by the absence of those symptoms. The living entities who reside in the Vaikuntha lokas in eternal life and bliss have the same type of spiritual body without being affected by any signs of old age. It is described in the Bhagavatam, Canto 6, that the party of the Vishnu Dutas who came to deliver Ajamil from the clutches of the party of Yamaraj appeared like youthful boys, corroborating the description in this verse. It is ascertained thus that the spiritual bodies in the Vaikuntha lokas, either of the Lord or of the other inhabitants, are completely distinct from the material bodies of this world. Therefore, when the Lord descends from that world to this world, he descends in his spiritual body of Atma Maya, or internal potency, without any touch of Bahiranga Maya, or external material energy. The allegation that the impersonal Brahma appears in the material world by accepting a material body is quite absurd. Therefore, the Lord, when he comes here, has not a material body, but a spiritual body. The impersonal Brahma Jyoti is only the glaring effulgence of the body of the Lord, and there is no difference in quality between the body of the Lord and the impersonal ray of the Lord called Brahma Jyoti. Now the question is why the Lord, who is omnipotent, comes here to diminish the burden created upon the world by the unscrupulous kingly order. Certainly, the Lord does not need to come here personally for such purposes, but he actually descends to exhibit his transcendental activities in order to encourage his pure devotees, who want to enjoy life by chanting the glories of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:13-14, it is stated that the Mahatmas, or the great devotees of the Lord, take pleasure in chanting of the activities of the Lord. All Vedic literatures are meant for turning one's attention toward the Lord and his transcendental activities. Thus, the activities of the Lord and his dealings with worldly people create subject matter for discussion by his pure devotees. Tokena jiva haranam yarulukikayas traimasikasya chapadashakato pavrita yadringatantaragateena divis prishorva unmulanam tvitaratarjunayorna bhavyam. There is no doubt about Lord Krishna's being the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, how was it possible for him to kill a giant demon like Putana when he was just on the lap of his mother? To overturn a cart with his leg when he was only 3 months old? To uproot a pair of Arjuna trees so high that they touched the sky when he was only crawling? All these activities are impossible for anyone other than the Lord himself. One cannot manufacture a god by one's mental speculation or by numerical votes, as has become the practice for the less intelligent class of men. God is God eternally, and an ordinary living entity is eternally a part and parcel of God. God is one without a second, and the ordinary living entities are many without number. All such living entities are maintained by God himself, and that is the verdict of the Vedic literatures. When Kṛṣṇa was on the lap of his mother, the demon Putana appeared before his mother and prayed to nurture the child in her lap. Mother Yashoda agreed, and the child was transferred onto the lap of Putana, who was in the garb of a respectable lady. Putana wanted to kill the child by smearing poison on the nipple of her breast. But when everything was complete, the Lord sucked her breast along with her very air of life, and the demon's gigantic body, said to be as long as 6 miles, fell down. But Lord Kṛṣṇa did not need to expand himself to the length of the she-demon Putana, although he was quite competent to extend himself more than 6 miles long. In his Vaman incarnation, in Raj, there's a place called, there's different cities named after the different, like, villages or whatever. No, I think you could call it towns. Towns, that's what you call it. Where the different body parts of Putana landed. So, like, there's, I forgot what they all are, but like there's Hatras. Hatras is where her hand landed. I don't know. I don't remember the other town names, but yeah. So in his Vaman incarnation, he posed himself as a dwarf Brahmin. But when he took possession of his land, promised by Bali Maharaj, he expanded his footstep to the top of the universe, extending over thousands and millions of miles. So it was not very difficult for Kṛṣṇa to perform a miracle by extending his bodily feature. But he had no desire to do it because of his deep filial love for his mother Yashoda. If Mother Yashoda had seen Kṛṣṇa in her lap extending 6 miles to cope with the she-demon Putana, then the natural filial love of Yashoda would have been hurt, because in that way Yashoda would have come to know that her so-called son Kṛṣṇa was God himself. And with the knowledge of the godhood of Kṛṣṇa, Yashoda Mai would have lost the temper of her love for Kṛṣṇa as a natural mother. But as far as Lord Kṛṣṇa is concerned, he is God always, either as a child on the lap of his mother or as the cover of the universe, Vamandev. He does not require to become God by undergoing severe penances, although some men think of becoming God in that way. By undergoing severe austerities and penances, one cannot become one or equal with God, but one can attain most of the godly qualities. A living being can attain godly qualities to a large extent, but he cannot become God, whereas Kṛṣṇa, without undergoing any type of penance, is God always, either in the lap of his mother, or growing up, or at any stage of growth. So at the age of only 3 months, he killed the Shakatasura who had remained hidden behind a cart in the house of Yashoda Mai. And when he was crawling and disturbing his mother from doing household affairs, the mother tied him with a grinding pestle. But the naughty child dragged the pestle to a pair of very high Arjuna trees in the yard of Yashoda Mai. And when the pestle was struck between the pair of trees, they fell down with a horrible sound. When Yashoda Mai came to see the happenings, she thought that her child had been saved from the falling trees by the mercy of the Lord, without knowing that the Lord himself, crawling in her yard, had wreaked the havoc. So that is the way of reciprocation of love affairs between the Lord and his devotees. Yashoda Mai wanted to have the Lord as her child, and the Lord played exactly like a child in her lap, but at the same time played the part of the Almighty Lord whenever it was so required. The beauty of such pastimes was that the Lord fulfilled everyone's desire. One second. In the case of felling the gigantic Arjuna trees, really? I didn't know you can use that word like that. The Lord's mission was to deliver the 2 sons of Kuvera, who were condemned to become trees by the curse of Narad, as well as to play like a crawling child in the yard of Yashoda, who took transcendental pleasure in seeing such activities of the Lord in the very yard of her home. The Lord in any condition is the Lord of the universe, and he can act as such in any form, gigantic or small, as he likes. Somebody's trying to message me. Oh, it cut off. Uh-oh. How long did it cut off for? Because I see it working right now. Okay. Yadvai vraje vrajapashun vishato yapitan. Oh, okay. Palangstajivayanugraha drishti vrishtya tachudayeti vishavirya vilola jivam uchata yeshyara uragam viharan hradinyam. Then also, when the cowherd boys and their animals drank the poisoned water of the river Yamuna, and after the Lord in his childhood revived them by his merciful glance, just to purify the water of the river Yamuna, he jumped into it as if playing and chastised the venomous Kaliya snake, which was lurking there, its tongue emitting waves of poison. Who can perform such Herculean task but the Supreme Lord? Tat karma divyam ivayanishini shayanam davagnina suchivane paridahyamane uneshyate vrajato vasitantakalam netre pidapya sabalo nadigamya virya. On the very night of the day of the chastisement of the Kaliya snake, when the inhabitants of Brajbhumi were sleeping carefreely, there was a forest fire ablaze due to the dry leaves, and it appeared that all the inhabitants were sure to meet their death. But the Lord, along with Balaram, saved them simply by closing his eyes. Such are the superhuman activities of the Lord. Although in this verse the Lord's activity has been described as superhuman, it should be noted that the Lord's activities are always superhuman. And that distinguishes him from the ordinary living being. Uprooting a gigantic banyan or Arjuna tree and extinguishing a blazing forest fire simply by closing one's eyes are certainly impossible for any kind of human endeavor. But not only are these activities amazing to hear, but in fact all other activities of the Lord, whatever he may do, are all superhuman, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Whoever knows the superhuman activities of the Lord due to their very transcendental nature becomes eligible to enter the kingdom of Kṛṣṇa. As such, after quitting this present material body, the knower of the transcendental activities of the Lord goes back to home, back to Godhead. Grenitayadyar upabandamamushamata shulbam sutasya natutattaramushamati yajrimpato savadane bhuvanani gopi samvekshya shankita mana pratibodhitasit. When the cowherd woman, Krishna's foster mother Yashoda, was trying to tie the hands of her son with ropes, she found the rope to be always insufficient in length. And when she finally gave up, Lord Krishna, by and by, opened his mouth, wherein the mother found all the universes situated. Seeing this, she was doubtful in her mind, but she was convinced in a different manner of the mystic nature of her son. Purport. One day, Lord Krishna, as a naughty child, disturbed his mother Yashoda, and she began to tie up the child with ropes just to punish him. But no matter how much rope she used, she found it always insufficient. Thus she became fatigued, but in the meantime, the Lord opened his mouth, and the affectionate mother saw within the mouth of her son all the universes situated together. The mother was astonished, but out of her deep affection for Krishna, she thought that the almighty Godhead Narayan had kindly looked after her son just to protect him from all the continuous calamities happening to him. Because of her deep affection for Krishna, she could never think that her very son was Narayan, the personality of Godhead himself. That is the action of Yoga Maya, the internal potency of the Supreme Lord, which acts to perfect all the pastimes of the Lord with his different types of devotees. Who could play such wonders without being God? Nandang chamokshati bayar varunasya pashyar gopam bileshu pihitam maya sununacha Adnyapritang nishi shayanamati shamena lokam vikuntam upaneshyati gokulam sma. Lord Krishna saved his foster father Nanda Maharaj from the fear of the demigod Varuna and released the cowherd boys from the caves of the mountain, for they were placed there by the son of Maya. Also, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, who were busy working during the daytime and sleeping soundly at night because of their hard labor in the day, Lord Krishna awarded promotion to the highest planet in the spiritual sky. All these acts are transcendental and certainly prove without any doubt his godhood. I don't understand that, actually. Let's see if it's explained in the purport. Because the inhabitants of Vrindavan are in a place superior to the highest planet in this. Oh, in the spiritual sky. God, I'm so spaced out. Yes, of course. Goloka Vrindavan. Okay, purport. Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Maharaj, the foster father of Lord Krishna, wants to take his bath in the river Yamuna in the dead of night, mistakenly thinking that the night was already over. Thus the demigod Varuna took him to the Varuna planet just to have a look at the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, who appeared there to release his father. Actually, there was no arrest of Nanda Maharaj by Varuna, because the inhabitants of Vrindavan were always engaged in thinking of Krishna in constant meditation on the personality of Godhead in a particular form of samadhi, or trance of bhakti yoga. They had no fear of the miseries of material existence. And the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that to be in the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by full surrender and transcendental love frees one from the miseries inflicted by the laws of material nature. Here it is clearly mentioned that the inhabitants of Vrindavan were extensively busy in the hard labor of their day's work, and due to the day's hard labor, they were engaged in sound sleep at night. So practically, they had very little time to devote to meditation or to the other paraphernalia of spiritual activities. But factually, they were engaged in the highest spiritual activities only. Everything done by them was spiritualized because everything was dovetailed in the relationship with Lord Sri Krishna. The central point of activities was Krishna, and as such, the so-called activities in the material world were saturated with spiritual potency. That is the advantage of the way of Bhakti Yoga. One should discharge one's duty on Lord Krishna's behalf, and all one's actions will be saturated with Krishna thought, the highest pattern of trance in the spiritual realization. Oh, Krishna! Goparmake pratihate vraja viplavaya teve vivarshati pashun kripaya nirikshu darto chilindramiva sapta danani sapta varsho mahindra managaika kare salilam. When the cowherd men of Vrindavan, under instruction of Krishna, stopped offering sacrifice to the heavenly king, Indra, the whole tract of land known as Vraj was threatened with being washed away by constant heavy rains for 7 days. Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy upon the inhabitants of Vraj, held up the hill known as Govardhan with one hand only, although he was only 7 years old. He did this to protect the animals from the onslaught of water. Children play, purport, children play with an umbrella generally known as a frog's umbrella. Frog's umbrella? And Lord Kṛṣṇa, when he was only 7 years old, could snatch the great hill known as the Govardhan-Parvat at Vrindavan and hold it for 7 days continuously with one hand, just to protect the animals and inhabitants of Vrindavan from the wrath of Indra, the heavenly king, who had been denied sacrificial offerings by the inhabitants of Vrajbhumi. Factually, there is no need of offering sacrifices to the demigods for their services, if one is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Sacrifices recommended in the Vedic literature. Sacrifices recommended in the Vedic literature for satisfaction of the demigods are a sort of inducement to the sacrificers to realize the existence of higher authorities. The demigods are engaged by the Lord as controlling deities of material affairs, and according to the Bhagavad Gita, when a demigod is worshipped, the process is accepted as the indirect method for worshipping the Supreme Lord. But when the Supreme Lord is worshipped directly, there is no need of worshipping the demigods or offering them sacrifices, as recommended in particular circumstances. Lord Kṛṣṇa therefore advised the inhabitants of Vrajbhumi to not offer any sacrifices to the heavenly king Indra. But Indra, not knowing Kṛṣṇa and Vrajbhumi, was angry at the inhabitants of Vrajbhumi. But Indra, not knowing Lord Kṛṣṇa and Vrajbhumi, was angry at the inhabitants of Vrajbhumi and tried to avenge the offense. But, competent as the Lord was, he saved the inhabitants and the animals of Vrajbhumi by his personal energy and proved definitely that anyone directly engaged as a devotee of the Supreme Lord need not satisfy any other demigods, however great, even to the level of Brahma or Shiva. Thus, this incident definitely proved without a doubt that Lord Kṛṣṇa is the personality of Godhead, and that he was so in all circumstances, as a child on the lap of his mother, as a boy of 7 years, and as an old man of 125 years of age. In either case, he was never on the level of the ordinary man, and even in his advanced age, he appeared a young boy 16 years old. These are the particular features of the transcendental body of the Lord. Kridan bane nishi nisha kararashmi goryam rason mukha kalapadayata murchitena uddipita smararujan vrajabrid vadunan hartu harishyati shira danadanugasya. When the Lord was engaged in his pastimes of the Ras dance in the forest of Vrindavan, enlivening the sexual desires of the wives of the inhabitants of Vrindavan by sweet and melodious songs, a demon of the name Shankha-chūda, a rich follower of the treasure of heaven, Kubera, kidnapped the damsels, and the Lord severed his head from his trunk. Shankha-chūda is the bull, is it right? Yeah. We should carefully note that the statements described herein are the statements of Brahmaji to Narad, and he was speaking to Narad of the events that would happen in the future during the advent of Lord Kṛṣṇa. The pastimes of the Lord are known to the experts who are able to see past, present, and future, and Brahmaji, being one of them, foretold what would happen in the future. The killing of Shankha-chūda by the Lord is a more recent incident, after the Rasalila, and not exactly a simultaneous affair. In the previous verses we have seen also that the Lord's engagement in the affairs of the forest fire was described along with the pastimes of punishing the Kaliya snake, and similarly the pastimes of the Rasa dance and the killing of Shankha-chūda are also described herein. The adjustment is that all of these incidents would take place in the future after the time when it is being foretold by Brahma to Narad. The demon Shankha-chūda was killed by the Lord during his pastimes at Horika in the month of Falgun, and the same ceremony is still observed in India by the burning of the effigy of Shankha-chūda one day prior to the Lord's pastimes at Horika, generally known as Holi. Generally, the future appearance and the activities of the Lord are his incarnations are foretold in the scriptures. And thus the pseudo-incarnations are unable to cheat persons who are in knowledge of the events as they are described in the authoritative scriptures. It looks like there's a line missing here. So let me just open up my Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're going to end with these two verses. Oh man, I'm starting to get really tired. Oh God. Okay, I'm just getting my Srimad Bhagavatam. 1 second. Where did it put it? Oh, it's right here. Okay. 34, 35. Okay. Okay, it's missing the... Oh my God, I am really tired. There are 8 lines there. It's actually all fine. Sorry, guys. I only slept 4 hours last night, so I'm like a little bit, yeah. Yecha pralamba karadar durakesharishta male bakangsa yavanat kapi pondrakadya anyecha shalva kujabal valadanta vakra saptoksha shambara viduratarukmi mukya eva mridesmiti shalina atachapa kamboja matsya kurushin jaya kaikayadya yasyanta darshanamalam balapartha bhima Vyajavyayena harinam nilayam tadiyam. Oh, Kṛṣṇa, how long is this purport? Okay, not too bad. Okay, all demoniac personalities like Pralamba, Venuka, Baka, Keshi, Arishta, Chanura, Mushtika, Kuvalaya Pida, the Kuvalaya Pida elephant, Kamsa, Yavana, Narakasura, and Pondraka, great marshals like Shalva, the Davida monkey, and Balvala, Dantavakra, the 7 bulls, Shambara, Vidurata, and Rukmi, as also great warriors like Kamboja, Matsya, Kuru, Srinjaya, and Kekaya would all fight vigorously, either with the Lord Hari, or directly, or with him under the names of Baladev, Arjuna, Bhima, etc. That was a long sentence. And the demons thus being killed would attain either the impersonal Brahmajyoti or his personal abode in the Vaikuntha planets. All manifestations in both the material and spiritual worlds are demonstrations of the different potencies of Lord Kṛṣṇa. The personality of Godhead, Baladev, is his immediate personal expansion, and Bhima, Arjuna, etc. are his personal associates. The Lord would appear as he does. So whenever he appears. Sorry, guys, I'm really starting to. Only few more sentences left, though. Okay, let me try again. The Lord would appear, and does so whenever he appears, with all his associates and potencies. Therefore, the rebellious souls, like the demons and the demoniac men, mentioned by the names like Pralamba, would be killed either by the Lord himself or by his associates. All these affairs will be clearly explained in the 10th canto. But we should know well that all the above-mentioned living entities killed would attain salvation either by being merged in the Brahmajyoti of the Lord or being allowed to enter into the abodes of the Lord called the Vaikunthas. This has already been explained by Bhishma Dev, 1st canto. All persons who participated in the battlefield of Kurukshetra or otherwise with the Lord or with Baladev, etc., would benefit by attaining spiritual existence according to the situation of their minds at the time of death. Those who recognized the Lord would enter Vaikuntha, and those who estimated the Lord as only a powerful being would attain salvation by merging into the spiritual existence. Sorry, I was looking at the message. Into spiritual existence of the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord. But every one of them would get released from the material existence. Since such is the benefit of those who played with the Lord inimically, one can imagine what would be the position of those who devotedly served the Lord in transcendental relationship with Him. All right, so we will continue with this verse 36, which is on the topic of, let's move down, Vyasadeva. We're going to read about Vyasadeva and Buddha and maybe Kalki tomorrow. Maybe in the Guna Avatars. Maybe I think we can finish the chapter tomorrow. Let's see how many pages is left. 1 second. I'm just moving this back to... Okay, I'm just seeing how many pages are left in the chapter. It's 8 o'clock. Okay, time to finish. There are... Oh, it's quite a lot. Never mind, we might not finish tomorrow. Whoa, this is a long chapter. Yeah, we're definitely not going to finish tomorrow. We're on page... one second. We're on page 61 right now, and the chapter is 88 pages. Sorry, I mean, yeah, so we need to read from 61 to 88. So 2 more days. Jaya Shri Radhe, I'm going to end with a kirtan now. Oh, Kṛṣṇa. Man, I'm supposed to read Damodarastakam in 2 hours from now. No, in 1 hour from now. Take breakfast, and then I'm going to be falling asleep while I read. It's not going to be good. Maybe if I take a 15-minute nap, that will work. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Gandharva Giridhari, Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtatarashata Shrimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudeva Ki Jai, Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashtatarashata Shrimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitilapa Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitilapa Vishnu Mahabhagavat Srila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitilapa Vishnu Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Nitilapa Vishnu Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Pata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Patadashagunath Shar Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gopal the Vrinda ki jai. Nam Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vaja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishya Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashaja Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandava Pranams, Haribo. See you. Yeah, I'm going to read Damodarastakam 2nd chapter if you want to join. Otherwise, see you either this evening when I do the evening kirtan program or tomorrow morning. Jai Shri Radhe, Haribo, Raseshwari, Mataji, Pramila. I don't know if Lalit Krishna is there. I can't see who's watching this time. It's really strange.